Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Here just to do a quick overview of the spoilers. I'm not going to get into much of the spoilers here. I'm just going to talk about the design set and hopefully address what I think the Wizards has been doing a little bit wrong lately. And again, this is just something I think any game suffers with the further you go on. I mean, this game's been around for 20 plus years, and I know it's probably getting pretty hard to come up with more creative ideas, but we just came from what I would consider a very creative set with Khans of Tarkir, and the whole block of Khans, and even Origins was an incredibly creative and synergistic and fun set. And I don't want to just sound like a Debbie Downer and mirror a lot of the hate that's already going around for this set, but I do actually want to make some points and some criticism of the design team. Yeah, we haven't played this in standard or draft yet. It might be a better format than I'm giving it credit. Like, I did end up eating my words with Modern Masters 2. When the set was spoiled, I absolutely hated it and thought it would make the crappiest limited format ever. And draft actually ended up not being that bad. Sealed still was the crappiest sealed format ever. I could not stand Modern Masters Sealed. It's one of the worst limited formats I've ever played. Now, this one I think will be okay in limited because they did take like kind of a safe route, and it's not really the limited, it's not the draft or the sealed format I think is going to be terrible. It's just the design that their creativity, like some of these cards are just so overdone. And you'll see this with Landfall, Devoid, and Awaken. They just like slap the abilities on a bunch of cards and call them good. Like, hey, what can we do with this card? Oh, we'll just put this staple 3/3 for 3 and throw Landfall on it. And it just seems really boring to me with the design. So the first, like, the first part of these mythics are actually pretty good designs. I love the new Gideon. I think the new Gideon is one of the better planeswalkers ever printed. He immediately protects himself with a white knight. So it feels a lot like Xenagos to me, but I do think the +1, yeah, it's very on par with Xenagos. But the cool thing about Gideon is you can use his ultimate immediately and get an emblem out, a permanent emblem out that your opponents can't deal with. That is actually pretty significant if you're in sort of any sort of like even Eldrazi spawn. It's kind of funny that Gideon helps Eldrazi spawn out a ton, but I thought it was a pretty sweet design. And Kiora, Master of the Depths, I'm a huge fan of. I'm going to throw it right into my Tooth and Nail deck. It's going to be blue that I'm going to be splashing rather than red. And it's going to be probably 2 or 3 of them in my Tooth and Nail deck. And it's very similar to the old Garruk that untaps 2 lands, because in Tooth and Nail, you're able to untap an elf and a land that's enchanted. So usually what you do with Tooth and Nail is you enchant 1 land. You don't want to spread out your enchantments. So in that fashion, it's better than Garruk for Tooth and Nail. Next, this is also a pretty sweet design. It does seem a little bit lazy with design. I mean, look how much text is on a Planeswalker. Very, very little. You draw a card, lose life, destroy a creature, and get an emblem whenever a player draws a card. They lose 2 life. It's just a value-based creature. Yeah, that can be pretty boring. Dragonmaster Outcast is one of the few reprints that people are excited about. I think it goes perfectly in the theme. I always thought this was a cool card because it's a 1-drop that gets value later on. And so it goes perfectly in any sort of red mid-range deck. And then we have some other mythics here that I think are pretty sweet. The Green Warden has some nice flavor to it because you get two cards out of 1. Like Eternal Witness kind of on crack. And the 6 mana I think is a little bit steep for an ability you want that to go with, but it's still fine. Quarantine Field was sweet design. And then also the Drain of Liberator of Malakir was kind of sweet. I think it's on par with Vampire Nighthawk. I don't know if it's actually even better than Vampire Nighthawk. So this is kind of like one of the criticisms people are having about this set is the rares and mythics do not feel rare and mythic. And the other mythic that I do like, so most of the mythics were hit. So the Undergrowth Champion, if damage dealt to it, it has a +1/+1 counter on it. Prevent that damage, remove a +1/+1 counter. And then with Landfall, it gets a +1/+1 counter. It's another one of those cool cards I think goes perfectly with Hardened Scales. Unfortunately, this card is like a 3-drop you want in a Hardened Scales deck for the 2 devotion with the Reverent Hunter that gets more stuff. I still think Hardened Scales wants this card, and it goes perfectly. Avatar Resolute, you have the Mana Gorger Hydra, and it's gonna be a sweet card for that type of deck, and I like the design of an Underworld Champion. Now the two mythics I cannot stand, and I'm so sick of this. I don't know what other people feel. Is the every set let's throw out a Phoenix, the mythic, and have it recur. Wizards, we're sick of you. We're sick of your Phoenixes. I know that a lot of them have been duds, and you really want a Phoenix to see play, but they're getting so redundant. It's like every set, let's put a Phoenix with this mechanic of whatever set and call it good. So we have the Firebird, which I actually think is a fine card. It's just getting annoying with the Mythic Phoenixes. Flying Haste, Firebird attacks each turn if able. That's every Phoenix, basically. Flying Haste, and the attack clause is pretty normal. And then Landfall, whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 6 and return it back to the battlefield. So it gets in there for that early damage, and late game it just keeps coming back and coming back and coming back every land you have. It is kind of a steep cost. It's nice against the control decks, and I just don't think that it can quite take over Thunderbreak Regents 4-drop. It might, and it might go right on along with it, but we're just getting so sick of the Phoenixes. I'm getting sick of them. Anywho, but then we get to the first one, the Mythic, the Part of the Water Veil, which is literally another card that has existed, and slap on Awaken. And they do this throughout the set. There are so many of these. This just like, cancel. What can we do with cancel? We'll throw Awaken on it and call it a rare. Yuck. Yuck. Awaken is going to happen, and this one's kind of cool because it gives you an extra turn with the 6/6. But 9 mana, that's a bit of a steep cost to cast. Most of the time, this is just going to be cast for 6 mana, and so they made, what was it, Time Warp a little bit, or one of the Time Spiral? I can't remember which one cost. Wasn't there one that cost 5? Maybe it did cost 6, so maybe it's just strictly better than a card that did exist. But the Awaken to me is a little bit boring. I wish they would have just put it on some more unique cards rather than just putting on like staple cards and slapping Awaken on it. So then we have a lot of more of these landfall abilities that the Mary Shepherd's kind of cool. We have the ones, I think that this little string of them, a forest, mountain, swamp, are all really cool. These are going to be great in limited. These are going to be your staple limited format that are going to have a hard time, in my opinion, seeing standard play. They're on the verge of being standard play. Like, they all seem like they're powerful enough in certain standard shells, but remember, like, a lot of the souls did seem very powerful when they were spoiled in M15, and 6 mana was very, very weird in standard. You needed 6 mana to end the game or do something incredibly significant. These are competing with cards like Dragonlord, Ojutai, and it's just, I don't see them necessarily seeing play. Now, limited and commander, they're probably going to be great. Casual commander, this little string is great. So kudos to this design. It's still not bad. Now we have another string of stuff that I also think with landfall is all right. These are going to be limited staples. We have the retreats that are going to put counters on things. This is actually kind of cool with hardened scales, but I just don't think there's room for it. You have can't block and +2/+0. Well, Death Touch and +1/+0. So the first one is like a creature pump ability for most of these, or in this case, the white's second one is a creature pump, and the third one is kind of a utility. So the blue, unfortunately, doesn't have a creature one, so it kind of breaks the trend. But I think these are all great designs. So far, the set's okay. Now we have some more rares. We have another reprint in Feldar Sovereign that needed to be reprinted. The Yugen's Insight is just another one of those. Well, this one's actually not that. But then we have Converge. I absolutely hated Converge as an ability. Draw X cards and you lose X life for X number of colors. So it's a Read the Bones without the scry. It's kind of a Sign in Blood. But if you only have black mana, you're only drawing 1 card and losing 1 life. If you only have colorless mana, you're still only drawing 1 card and losing 1 life. If you have in like a black-blue shell, then you're drawing 2 cards and losing 2 life. But yeah, that's going to be pretty rough. In an Abzan deck, I guess you could draw 3 cards and lose 3 life. So Painful Truth isn't as bad as some of the Converges. Some of the Converges, you're like, what? They're really underwhelming. And then in a rare, this is the problem with everyone's having. This is usually like a common or an uncommon ability. and they've slapped it on a rare, I don't think anyone is going to be happy to open this as a rare. Same with Ugin's Insight. None of these feel like a rare. They feel like the uncommon slot, very much like the uncommon slot. Zada's a cool design. Woodland Wanderers is also one of those converge that just you shake your head. 4/4 Vigilance Trample for 4 mana is not very great, and I guess this could get up to a 6/6 if you spent 4 colors on it. But that's a lot of colors. So if you were to replace this as a white, blue, black, green for a 6/6 Vigilance Trample, I don't know if that would even necessarily fit the bill. It would be worth to put it into a deck. Now, it does have 2 abilities for a Soulflayer. So if you want to ditch this into the graveyard, your Soulflayer will at least get Vigilance and Trample. But I just don't like this converge. It's just too hard to make it actually worthwhile. You spend 1 mana on it, it's just a vanilla. Just green, it's going to be a vanilla 3/3. If you're into a red-green, it's going to be a 4/4 Vigilance Trample. We've seen tons of those for 4 mana that haven't really seen play. And then if you're into like a Jund-based build, now we're up to a 5/5. And it's still 5/5 for 4 mana. That's Pelucranos. It's good, I guess. But now you can't rely on that happening even in a 3-color deck very consistently. Now we're on to the Planar Outburst. Here we have another card. Let's just slap Day of Judgment, make it 1 more mana, and put Awaken on it. Okay, we get it. Prism Array. This seems like the worst rare. I'm not even going to talk about it. It's so... The Scry for 5 mana of each color, Scry 3. Ugh. 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 Now we have Hero's Downfall with, well, this card is, I cannot stand Ruinous Path. There are so many ways I cannot stand this card. Why'd they have to make this a sorcery speed? Destroy target creature or planeswalker, Hero's Downfall with Awaken. I guess they just wanted to make it not strictly better than Hero's Downfall, but it's Awaken 7. You do get a 4/4. That is so late game by the time that... I understand that they've kind of got this theme going, and that's one of the reasons they reprinted Dragon Master Outcast, is you have a card that can work early, and now you have a card that can work late. But it's just... I don't know if it's enough of an upswing to make this like Day of Judgment. This is just strictly worse than Day of Judgment, going from 4 to 5. 4 to 5 is a huge... In Standard, that is monstrous of a difference. It's the difference between stabilizing and not stabilizing. A lot of the 5 mana sweepers are having a tough time seeing play because that's the difference between the aggro deck on turn 4 killing you or turn 5 killing you. I mean, every aggro deck is going to consistently kill you on turn 5. If it can't do that, it's not an aggro deck. Or being able to stabilize like 8 life or 10 life with a Day of Judgment and then begin to outclass the aggro decks. Same thing with this Ruinous Path. That instant speed on Hero's Downfall in a control-based deck is the difference between being playable and not playable. We saw the Sorcery Speed 2 mana Destroy Target, the Dreadbore, have a tough time see play, even with Jund being one of the most played color combinations during the time of Dreadbore. So I don't think that Awaken is enough to put over Hero's Downfall. And then we have Radiant Flames, which deals X damage to each creature for X the number of colors spent on this. I think this is just playable just because if you play it in like a black-red shell, you're at least getting 2 damage to each creature, and we need a sweeper in the format of fast sweeper. And if you're in like Jund or Mardu or Jeskai colors, yes, you can do 3 damage, but it's going to be a little bit hard to do so. So this also seems like it's more of an uncommon ability. Yes, you can compare it to Anger of Gods, you can compare it to... the one even before that, the one out of Mirrodin, Besieged, that does 3 damage to each creature for 3 mana. But it's just with Converge that puts a lot of stipulations on it, and it's just strictly worse for all of its predecessors. And we desperately need a sweeper because they want all these Eldrazi's to see play. If Dragonlord Atarka is not seeing a lot of play, if a lot of the later based cards that we currently have in Standard aren't seeing a lot of play because aggro is just too good, like that gap between where aggro gets good and control gets good, then I have a hard time seeing Eldrazi see play. Like, what Eldrazi right now is going to replace Ugin? I think Ugin is just strictly better than any Eldrazi at the moment. And we're going to have to get rid of early aggression 4 Eldrazi to see play. I just don't see it happening. Now, Beastcaller Servant. Here's another one that this card does not seem rare. This seems so bad at the rare slot. Haste, 1/1 for 2 mana. So you can add 1 mana of your mana pool, spend it on only to cast creature spells. Are you kidding me? So turn 2, you're going to play this and then be able to play a 1-drop? Really? I don't like it. I do not like it at all. I mean, in some sort of ally reanimations-based strategy with Rally the Ancestors, you can spend 1 mana to then spend towards a creature. Why is that clause? I mean, they had to dumb this down terribly bad. First of all, they had to make it 2 mana. Then I would think this would have been on par with just a 1 mana haste. I don't know if that would be too broken, though, because then you could go crazy. Like turn 1 Beastcaller into Beastcaller into Beastcaller, and then have a ton of mana on turn 2. But that just seems like a magical Christmas land type scenario. Does not feel rare to me. Lantern Scout, rally whenever an ally, they gain lifelink, 3 mana. This again sounds to me like it needs to be a uncommon or common to round out the rally tribe. I think at a rare slot, you can't rely on this guy with lifelink, and lifelink is really more of a limited strategy than anything. And its body is just too weak to Wild Slash. This guy is going to get value when you cast him, but then what? It's not going to stick around. It's your earlier stuff are probably not going to stick around either. And it's something at a rare slot you can't rely on this to get in your limited pool. Exert Influence. Gain control of target creature's power less than or equal number of colors you spent on Exert Influence. I can't even begin to say how much I hate this card. So you can get something with 5 because you can spend 5 colors. So you can get a 5/5. Yes. No. Domestication is a much better card than this for 1 less mana. And we used to just have a card called Control Magic that gain control of a creature. Just flat out gain control of it. So Exert Influence, you can't grab an Eldrazi. You can't grab... it's going to be very hard to grab an Ojutai. Even a Thunderbreak Region, it's going to be very hard to grab. What the hell can you get with this card consistently in a 3-color deck? You can grab a 3/3, like a 3-powered card. Yeah, put this in your trash pile. This card is absolute garbage. Should not be a rare. Is anything but a rare. It has so many stipulations on if it can work or not. Ugh, it's going to be so bad and limited. You're going to be able to get a power 2 or less. Oh, man, I hate this card. All right, so it's going on the flying whenever you gain life. Target opponent lose that much life. 7 mana for a Tainted or a Sanguine Bond. Ugh, this just is so casual. It has no chance in hell of seeing competitive play. And this is coming from a guy that loves this type of strategy. Stonewalker, whenever land enters battlefield, you can pay 3 if you do put a 3/1 elemental with haste. This card just seems too hard to get going. At least we're into this guy's an uncommon. He's not a rare. I think this card's fine with landfall, but it's rough. Yeah, I don't know if you need that clause exile. You're already paying 3 mana. Yeah, this is too weak for something you just get a lightning bolt type ability. Like you want 3 mana. It doesn't even have trample. Yes, it does have trample at least, but it's going away. You're getting exiled, which a lot of times it's going to die anyway. I think the upside of this would be let it stick around. If it doesn't die, you have another 3/1 elemental. That's definitely not overpowered ability. I wish they were too conservative with a lot of these cards. And this is Renewal. Search your library for up to 3 basic land cards. Put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Gain 7 life. Okay, by the time you're up at 6 mana, this, I guess, is going to get your higher Eldrazi's or Ugin. The thing is that this is a 6 mana into an Ugin that only costs, what, 8 mana? Yeah, there's better ways to ramp into it by that point. It's not bad. It really enables landfall. So you get 3 lands on the battlefield with landfall. They do put them on the battlefield tap, though. I don't know. The verdict is out for this one. It could see play. Because in the past, I've hated cards like this. But in some sort of shells, they have been like the perfect card. Because it does stabilize you and ramp you into your next. But 6 mana, that's a lot. Now we're on to another rally, which the whole point of allies in the last set was they were quick. and they came out quicker than your Eldrazi, and so it gave the theme of rallies are fast, Eldrazi are slow, or allies are fast, Eldrazi are slow. So this one, it enters the battlefield, creature's controlling indestructible. It doesn't have flash, so you can cast it and then, oh, each attack phase, my guys can be indestructible and then die on your opponent's turn to any sort of sweeper. So indestructible is a lot better at instant speed than sorcery speed, and this is a sorcery speed type ability. We have seen like front like medic in the past, or other creatures that give indestructible on your turn see play, but so meh. Now we have Scatter the Winds. Here's the card that I absolutely cannot stand, that I thought is the most boring ability everywhere. So now we have a Hero's Downfall, or actually a Murder. Well, it is more Hero's Downfall than Murder. Sorcery speed. Now we have a Cancel. They printed Cancel with Awaken 6. I guess it had to happen. So we won't talk about commons here. I'm just going to focus directly on rares. See if there are any other rares I've missed out on in the list. I think I've talked about them. So it's just so many rares. I thought there was way more rares than this. There we go. We're going to get back into rares. Back into this. Mythic spoilers. Really, let's go back up. Is there a way to do it into rarity? Sort by. Nope, there isn't. This is not by rarity. All right, so let's go back over to, I think all the mythic Eldrazi are fine. They're going to see some play in standard and see some play in. I actually like all the mythic Eldrazi. They're not bad. Endless One's cool. This is probably one of my favorite cards spoiled right now in the set. Well, besides, of course, the Blood Artist. But Endless One, I've been begging for a 0-drop that kills itself. And Hangerback Walker and Endless One now fit the bill, where I can build Cheerios in Modern. Like, one of the things that you want for Beck Call and for Fecundity, and for there's another card called No Rest for the Weary, is you want cards to come into the battlefield and kill themselves immediately. I have a deck in Legacy that uses a bunch of those. And then so they come into play, you get the card off of Beck Call or Glimpse of the Unthinkable, they die, and then you use a card that returns them to your hand from the graveyard. So it's like an eggs type shell. And the problem is with Modern, we didn't have any cards that came into the battlefield for 0 and killed themselves. We had tons in Legacy, none in Modern. Now we have 2 in Modern. I think that actually pushes it into an archetype that is good. So Gruesome Slaughter, I think, is fine as well. Oblivion Solar, Void Winnower, all these cards are great. Blighted Herder is fine, is good. You may put 2 cards in your opponent's graveyard, put 3 Eldrazi spawns, have sack. That's not bad. 5 colorless mana for 4/5. For the ability to have 3 Eldrazi spawn, it's fine. This is like your perfect card for what we'd consider bulk, or almost not quite bulkish, like powerful enough, but probably not powerful enough to see standard, right on the verge. These cards are great. You need them in the set. They're not unplayable. And the same can be said for Conduit of Ruin. This is actually a pretty sweet design. You may search your library for a close creature card with 7 or greater, reveal it, and put it on top of your library, and then the first creature spell costs 2 less. So your 6 mana is going to make your 9 mana be able to come into play on turn 7. I actually like this card a lot. So great design to enable your next ones. Rarity, yeah, rarity's fine. I think that maybe this could be your uncommon slot to help the Eldrazi tribe. And the Desolation Twin is okay as well, because when you cast it, you get 2 10/10s. That's a cool design. If any player exiles 2 permanent sacred... Oh, this is uncommon. We're not going to talk about uncommons. Uncommons are fine. It's just going to be the rare slot. The Sire of Stagnation is actually pretty sweet. It's kind of the Sphinx of... what was that Sphinx that was printed out in New Phyrexia? Whenever they drew a card, you draw 2 cards. This is a little bit weaker version, because by the time that you're at turn 6, your opponent might not be able to... or might not have to play lands. So they're like, this thing gives them the option. So the thing with the old Sphinx that made it so good is your opponent had to draw a card each turn. So they drew a card, you draw 2 cards. And whenever they draw a card, you draw 2 cards. This is whenever they play a land, you draw 2 cards. And it's just a weaker version of it. I still think that it's cool, though. I don't know if it will see play just because your opponent has the option to not give you that advantage, and they can still kill it. They can kill it, then play a land. And that is the world difference between the old Sphinx. Devoid Haste, 5/3. At the beginning of end step, if you control no other colorless creature, return it to your owner's hand. It's okay. This is one of those another rares that just doesn't seem like it's overpowered or underpowered. It's right on the bill. Fits the bill for limited. I don't think it will see constructed play. Brutal Explosion is really cool. This card's actually sweet. Returns creature to its owner's hand and deals 2 damage to our creature planeswalker that would be exiled. So it's got an unsummon and a spray, a magma spray on one card. 4 mana, not bad. People have talked about this might be modern playable. I just think that there's better cards right now in modern than this particular card, but it's not bad at all. Then we have this Fathom Feeder, Devoid Death Plus Ingest, draw a card, each opponent exiles top card of the library. Yeah, rare? No thank you. This screams uncommon. Uncommon, 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 uncommon. This is not rare worthy. This is so not rare. Then we have Brood of the Butcher. When it enters the battlefield, you put a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion. Creature stuck in the battlefield that has sack of mana. Then you can sacrifice a creature, target creatures. Not a rare, not a rare, not a rare, not a rare. This is not rare worthy. Yuck. It needs to be like a 4/4 or a 5/5 to make it a rare worthy. And we are now into multicolored. I like Hmmmmph a lot. This is just a sweet, fun landfall. Puts a 5/5 elemental. Whenever an elemental enters the battle or dies, it deals 3 damage to our creature player. This makes that card that I talked about earlier, that uncommon that exiles the elemental creatures, a lot more lackluster. This Angelic Captain, it cannot stand it. When it attacks, it gets +1/+1 until in turn for each other attacking ally. I think this would be a lot cooler if it just, when it enters the battlefield or an ally enters the battlefield, each creature gets +1/+1. It's, ugh. I guess it's a renewable resource in that ability, but ugh, 5 mana. No thank you. No thank you. And it only gets +1/+1. Yeah, I misread that completely. This card's terrible. Noyan is cool. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put 3/+1 counters on land you control. 4/4 for 5 might be a little bit too hard to work. This is kind of cool though, because it doesn't matter. You can pump up one land. Unfortunately, like Darksteel Citadel is out of the mix. What I do like this is for the man lands. This is really cool with Celestial Colonnade. Unfortunately, Celestial Colonnade's not been reprinted yet. I probably think those will be reprinted next set, the ally colored ones. But the hexproof one wants to have counters on it. And if that land becomes a 0/0 land, the problem is though that sometimes your man lands, what makes them so good is they're a land on your opponent's turn, a creature on your turn. So you effectively protect them for sorcery speed removal. And this gets around that. March of the Tomb is just going to be too weak until Rally of the Ancestors out of the format. I think Rally is just much better, even for allies. And whenever Ambush Leader, so the Mundu Ambush Leader, or another ally in his battlefield, you're controlling me, look at the top 4 cards of the library. If you do reveal any ally cards from among them, put those on top of your library in any order. This should draw them. This should not put them on top. I think that's too weak. It's not terrible though. It's fine. I think it's fine at rarity. The 3/4 body dodges any sort of 3 removal. This is an okay. I'm not gonna complain too much about this card. Bring to Light. Search your library for a creature, instant or sorcery card with mana costs less the number of mana spent on Bring to Light. You exile, then shuffle. Put that. You can may cast it without paying its mana cost if it's less. Yeah, you're gonna get at least a 2. Man, maybe a 3 if you're in Bant or Teamer. Highly doubt this is gonna go in a 5-color deck. You could get a 5. It's okay. It's got a cool ability. Converge probably doesn't feel like a rare to me either. I think Uncommon's fine with it. And then we have another ally at 3 mana that's going to be a 1/1 by itself. Powers equal number of creatures you control. Tap another untapped ally. It gains First Strike, Vigilance, Trample. It's fine. You see one of these usually in a cycle that wants to use creatures. I think it's fine. Here we have another put our creature on top of its own library, Awaken 6. I hate this card so much. Don't even get me started on how much I hate this card. Because of the sorcery clause, you need to, maybe it would be a little bit overpowered to put a creature on top of its own library at instant speed, but isn't there one that's instant speed out of Origins? It might be sorcery though, for just 2 and a blue. And the Awaken will be nice later on. 4 mana Awaken. It's just boring what the Awaken ability does. I wish you could see some more Awaken abilities that they have synergy with their own ability. Trample landfall whenever land enters battlefield. Okay, so here's more uncommons here. I think that we've pretty much visited a lot of the rares. I do like the land cycle. I think that they've underestimated how powerful they are, because a lot of times you do fetch for a shock land and then just put it into the battlefield tapped. So if they're saying that these won't go in 3 or 4 color decks, yeah, they will. These are the key cards to 3 or 4 color decks. So then we have, where we missed the man lands here. Did I skip over them somewhere? Doop 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 doop. There they are. So far we only have the 2-man lands, where once again black white gets the underwhelming one. The activation cost is not bad though. Lifelink 2/3 for 3 mana. I think that's actually not bad. This isn't as bad. I'm so glad it's not a 1/4. It's a 1/4 again with lifelink. Yuck. And the hexproof one I think is pretty good. I actually think that Lumbering Falls might see some play in Modern. Any sort of manland is good enough for Modern. We see abilities like the Fairy Conclave and the Treetop, which do have a less activation cost, but I think 4 is fine for the hexproof and 3 is fine for 2/3 lifelinker. Weaker than the last cycle, but still nonetheless these are decent designs. So let me think what you guys think about the set. I was very underwhelmed with them. I just think that there's so many of these rares that are just plain garbage, unplayable even in limited, that feel like they're uncommons. And I think that's been the biggest complaint about the set. I'm going to reserve judgment until I play this in limited to really critique the limited format of it. And I do think that most of these cards are going to be quite underwhelming in Modern. There's just, or in Standard, because Cons is just so much more of a powerful set than what we've seen so far from Zendikar. Let me know in the comment section if you agree or disagree. There will be some cards, absolutely will be some cards that affect the format. Gideon especially. Gideon's probably the really saving grace of the set. Both Gideon and Kiora are very good cards. And there is at least enough interesting cards for me to not give this like a 0 star, which some people are saying. It's just underwhelming. We've been spoiled with Dragons, Fate, Origins, and Cons. All of those were slam dunk sets. All of them were home runs. They were grand slams. They were just amazing sets. And it's been a while since we've had kind of a lackluster set. And I think this one kind of fits the bill for the definition of lackluster. Let me know in the comment section what you think about the set. Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.